We're continuing our conversation with Mohammad Chaudry. He's the president of the Islamic Center for the East Bay. The center has been targeted for the last 2 years with rocks, bullets, and now fire. Yet here we have someone who is still advocating peace, despite what I would say is a pretty ultimate insult to you. Wouldn't you agree?
If we as Muslims were to give to anger, then what is the difference between another person who in anger resorts to violence? Anger is the anathema, anger is the opposite of what we are talking here. We're talking here of love, we're talking here of understanding. And we're talking here is what America always stood for, that is dialogue.
Yes.
Not debate. Because in debate, you want to score a point.
Yes.
You want to defeat the other person. You want to prove that you're right and the other person is wrong. America always stood for dialogue.
Agreed.
And that's how America defeated communism and dialogue. And terrorism, if there's any key to eliminate terrorism, and we are as much a victim of terrorism as any American.
That's right.
And rather we are doubly victim. We are a victim here now, as you can see, and the person who did such kind of thing, he doesn't understand that our kids, in many cases born here, in many cases we brought them when they were very young, but they went to the best universities here, and he doesn't know that they might also have served in Iraq and in Afghanistan, or they might be serving. Now how do they feel when they hear that their house of prayers has been burnt? Are you going to ask a caged bird if it's like to be free? Yeah. Are you going to ask a plant, hey, do you like rainfall? Same way, who says that we don't like freedom?
That's right.
Who says we don't like democracy? Yeah. Who would know better than us? I come from Pakistan. I was college professor. We had always been looking ahead, looking towards America. Look in what peaceful manner the transfer of power takes place after 4 years.
That's right.
And their history is so cohesive and connected.
Yes.
And they talk about their previous presidents with respect.
Yes.
They don't defile them. They don't put any expressions on them, you know.
Yes.
Whether they did good things or bad things, you know.
Yeah.
So that's the beauty of America. And then we used to compare that what is happening over there. I give you another very good example. The other day, I was listening to a very popular TV show called Geo television. Yeah. It comes from Pakistan.
Oh, okay.
And this is the month of Ramadan.
Yes.
And what happened is that the wheat flour with which we make chapatis and eat, and that's the staple food over there. That somehow, a few months ago, the government was saying that there was a bumper crop of wheat.
Okay.
Okay. Now all of a sudden, when the Ramadan came, there was no wheat. Okay. Now people were, and on the TV show, you know what they were talking? They were talking like, look over in the West. When their religious occasions come, like Christmas, and they put things on sale. And here you guys, you claim yourself to be good Muslims, and you created the artificial scarcity of a staple food.
Supply and demand.
So you see how much, with what commendable words they were looking at the West and at America, whereas our pundits who specialize, as they claim, on Islam, they say, oh, they hate the West.
Yes.
They don't hate the West.
What I'd like to say, listeners, putting a fine point on this and perhaps a statistical aspect to it, the attacks against Muslims are well documented. They've increased since 9/11. In particular, attacks were up 30% in 2005 and 9% in 2006. This is nationwide, and these are facts. Yet, as you can hear from what Muhammad is saying, there is nothing in the Islamic religion that proclaims violence or encourages it. In fact, it is just the opposite. And I'd have to agree with you, Muhammad. I think a little bit more understanding and a little bit more dialogue, as you say, not debate, but dialogue and understanding. I think if we reach a hand out, we'll find a willing partner on the other side.
we believe in we were talking about the 5 pillars, and I started explaining other things also. Now the 5, this what we call shahada, oneness of God. If it doesn't lead to the oneness of humanity,
Yes.
then the very purpose in believing in God gets frustrated.
Exactly.
The second pillar is what we call the prayers, the
Yes.
5 daily prayers.
Yes.
Now, as I said yesterday, 34 times in our prayers, in 5 daily prayers, 34 times we send blessings on Prophet Abraham and his descendants. Now, who are the descendants of Prophet Abraham?
Who are
That
the
includes
descendants?
all religions.
Exactly. Exactly.
And then that means for 5 times in a day we submit to God, making a vow and making a pledge that we will do the right thing till we go for the next prayer. So it's a kind of 5 times you vow that you are not going to tell lies, that you are not going to steal, that you are not going to harm anybody. That's what the prayers are.
Exactly.
That's what, they are so much. The next one, 2 prayers are what we call charity or zakat. Now the beauty of the whole thing is that your prayers are just like packing your beak on the floor if it is not accompanied by demonstrable actions.
Exactly.
And that comes, you have to come up with some charity.
That's
you have to take care of the poor people, because no society can exist and claim that it is a just society if there is a large number of poor and deprived people in that society. Now in Islam, I tell you, it is the poor man's share. It is the poor man's share that keeps on growing in the pockets and coffers of the rich people.
Yeah, that is true.
So the whole burden is shifted from the poor man stretching his hand or begging. It is put on the rich person, that it is on him obligatory and mandatory that he must dispense with the share of the poor man that is there. So that's why 2.5% he has to give.
Yes.
If he doesn't, then he's not a good Muslim. Another very important point in Islam is justice.
Yes, justice.
Justice is so much mentioned in the Holy Quran and by the Prophet, that God says in the Quran that He created the universe only for the sake of justice, because He is going to judge us. And He says He is going to judge people even if it were an items, as small as an atom.
Yes.
So justice is the main thing. Now if people are unjust, God is not going to come down and say that, because God has already arranged a big process of accountability, and that is what we call the Qiyamah, or when the judgment day,
Yes.
when everybody will be judged according to his deeds, according to his performance in this world.
Mohammad, as we wrap up this segment, let me ask one final question of you. What really matters?
What really matters is, again, that, as I said yesterday, something positive, I'm optimistic, will come out. Yesterday's march was monumental in the sense that people of all religions came and joined us, not because they were favoring Muslims. I look at this, not because they came there to learn about Islam, but because they know in their heart that this was wrong.
Exactly.
So basically their march was against the bad thing that happened to us. So they were against a thing that should never happen to Muslims or to any people.
There you have it, listeners. Mohammad Chaudry, President, Islamic Center for the East Bay. Thank you for listening to my interview with Mohammad Chaudry. I admire Mohammad. Here is a man faced with religious bigotry, and yet he responds with peace. The social justice part of our weekly message has never resonated more clearly than in this interview. At Cathedral Financial Group, we celebrate diversity and welcome differing points of view. One might say we're financial advisors with a social conscience. Remember, it's dialogue, not debate and not violence that will win the day. Fiscal conservatism, social and environmental justice, that's what really matters.